I'm Caroline Jones. I suppose there are many Australians who can remember exactly where they were when they heard news of the death of Steve Irwin. The famous crocodile hunter was mourned publicly by millions, and of course by his family and his friends. Nearly a decade has passed, yet only now are some of the foundation members of his team speaking out and reconnecting. And this is their story.
Steve Irwin knew how to build a team. And the Croc team were the elite team. Everybody else was actually a little bit, intimidated by the Croc team because they were on all the documentaries. They were the star attraction, and they were Steve's team, and he'd hand-selected every one of them.
I got to know him as a very sort of tough, knockabout boss, but also on a very, very personal level because we both shared the passion of surfing. And still to this day, it's some of the best times of my life with him out in the water, just on sunbreak and sharing that very, very special time.
I felt incredibly privileged to be picked by Steve. He would keep you at a distance until he got to learn about who you were, and then he would bring you into his world.
Steve, he managed to get a very loyal group of people that worked really, really well together. Some of those moments I don't think I'll ever forget, working with those people.
I do think about Steve every day because I see Steve and I hear him in every single animal, every single encounter that I have. He's there.
He was diving with stingrays when one speared him through the chest.
Steve Irwin is survived by wife Terry and children Bindi and Bob.
I haven't opened up about the effect of Steve's death on me to anyone, not even, to my husband, because of who Steve was. The world was on fire. The world wanted to know everything and anything to do with Steve at that time. It was, like a hot iron, and I just kept everything in and bottled it in.
I guess the best way you could describe it is moving forward without a map.
Where you take 216?
Yep. Steve was such a phenomenal force that you knew which direction you were going. Now it seems, for myself and I know a lot of the other people, we are moving forward, but a bit lost from time to time, I guess.
Given now that it's been 9 years since Steve passed away, I find it unbelievable that time has gone so fast. But I often wonder about a lot of Steve's friends.
So he's on this one just here today.
It's weird because we all used to spend so much time together, and then all of a sudden we didn't, and everyone just kind of went their own ways.
Once we lost Steve, they were difficult times, and a lot of it I wanted to forget, I suppose, but I basically buried myself in physical work. I didn't really want to have anything to do with people.
I haven't spoken to Bob in a very long time, going on 7 years, and it's not to say that I certainly haven't thought about him. And I guess that I always felt that I wanted to reconnect with him. I just could never bring myself to pick up the phone and give him a ring, even though I really wanted to, it was in my heart. But I guess it was very emotional.
I view him as a very private sort of person, and possibly even, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, maybe slightly introverted as well. And I guess I've always been very, very respectful of the privacy that he does like.
I had things to get sorted out in my own head, and that took a long time to get that sorted out. And, not be like a hermit, because it wasn't doing me any good.
ex-zoo staff who knew that I knew Bob would say, I'll pass on our love for him, or tell him we said hi. And I just felt like saying quite often, you know, he would love to see you. You know, don't hold back, go out and see him. It would mean the world to him. I think maybe they thought they were doing more damage or were going to upset him to sort of bring up the past. But in actual fact, Bob very much wanted to see everybody.
In about the mid-90s, I heard about a little wildlife park called the Queensland Reptile Park.
And here we are back at the Queensland Reptile and Fauna Park with 2 crocodiles.
The majority of the animals that they had there were rescued, so-called problem crocodiles, and they gave me some volunteer work straight away, and after a very short amount of time they put me on full-time after working hard. And then Steve said to me, OK, I'm going to train you to be the next crocodile keeper. So then I sort of became his apprentice, and he said to me, if you get bitten during that time, you're out. So I was always very, very careful and listened to everything that he said.
I was Steve's personal assistant. I originally started as a volunteer. I was hired in the reptile department, so I was looking after the tortoises. First conversation I had with Steve was like, hey, Nicole, you know, what's your passion? What do you enjoy doing? You know, what do you want to do in life? You know, what do you want to achieve? You yourself had to be very genuine to work with Steve.
He has my eyes.
The eyes look good.
I saw Steve several times at Channel 8, always wide-eyed and innocent and enthusiastic, almost like a kid.
Do you know what we're doing?
No.
That makes all of us then.
I was in the corridor once yapping to him about something, and I think Mike Munro walked by, and he was so excited about meeting Mike and a couple other people there, and you really had to tell him, and you're bigger than all of us put together. I mean, he was an international star. He was a star in 130 countries.
Having seen Steve go from a personality that had done 1 or 2 documentaries to sort of a worldwide phenomenon, and seeing that whole transformation, me personally, I would never ever want fame myself. He's a lot more careful about where he went and what he did. I saw him sort of withdraw a bit. There were stages there when he would come into the zoo and he would dress in total disguise so that he wouldn't be recognised. He'd have sort of a large floppy hat, fake teeth, Hawaiian shirt. He just sort of seemed like a tourist, and it was quite funny. He'd throw some curly questions out there to some of the staff, and
you see some of them have sleeping bags, bedrolls.
He could have gone off and been driving luxury cars or living the high life. He didn't. I think half the reason why Steve worked as hard as what he did was because he always sort of sought his dad's approval. But everything that the sort of Steve did, Bob, just loved him for it,
Working as, the personal assistant to the crocodile hunter was not a 9-to-5 job. I was not sitting in the office picking up phones and typing emails. I was helping him in the field to capture these massive, enormous wild saltwater crocodiles.
Every year we would go up into Cape York and spend 5 to 6 weeks doing crocodile research. You can imagine going into all these far-flung places and relying on each other to back you up, and if he's not pulling his weight, then you're going to get a crocodile's teeth around your backside, sort of thing.
Here we go. Brino, you need to get ready to oppose me.
Brino was Steve's right-hand man when it came to catching crocs. He was always beside Steve, 1 to 2 feet away. He had his back every single time.
Let him come over, Brian. Go!
It was a special time to be involved with him. I may have been the teacher in the early years, but I became the pupil later on because Steve was able to get a better understanding of how we dealt with the animals.
I mean, he was a bona fide naturalist. He was a bona fide scientist. I don't think anyone, despite the fact they may have disliked his approach and the way he did things, I didn't. I thought he was fantastic. But they may question jumping on the back of crocodiles, but they didn't question his science.
My team are elite. They are the best of the best, cream of the crop in the entire world, and I will not have second best. because you got to stay alive. To be a good conservationist, to be a good crocodile catcher, you got to stay alive, mate.
August 2006 in Cape York was the last time that I worked with Steve on our crocodile research project. Saying goodbye to him at the campsite, you don't ever think that that's going to be your last goodbye to say, to someone like that. Yeah, very sad. His next mission, he was going off to film his last documentary, Ocean's Deadliest, aboard Croc 1.
This is my crew, Kate and Brian.
Steve, he asked myself and my wife to be the crew, and Croc 1 was going to be a research vessel, first and foremost, for rescue of wildlife, for research of wildlife.
The venom comes out like an aerosol can.
We were in the middle of filming out on the Outer Great Barrier Reef, we're just in the process of that when the accident happened.
I received a phone call from someone from the media, and he had heard that Steve had had a diving accident and he's passed away. And we had to write a press release to let people know what had happened, because the world was asking how it had happened.
Tonight, tragedy on the reef. Steve Irwin killed by a stingray.
The man known as the crocodile hunter, Steve Irwin, has died.
Steve Irwin touched the hearts of Australians and touched the hearts of millions around the world in a very special way.
Brian Coulter, his right-hand croc man, will drive Steve's truck on its final journey.
It was incredibly sad for Brino, he didn't just lose a mate, but he was there at the time that it happened. And
it was a very sort of personal thing that I've never really chosen to ever speak about before. And given the fact that we were sort of, so remote at the time as well, and I know it was a very, very, very tough time.
When I went up to Australia Zoo, his staff were grieving at the loss of the boss. And it was clear there wasn't Steve Irwin, the superstar, and the rest of them. It was clear that he was just one of the team, and obviously the most important member of the team. It was palpable, the relationship that they all had with him.
I guess there was a silent understanding between all of us that worked with Steve, particularly with the people that had been with him on that last trip. Nobody wanted to talk about anything, to put anyone through anything else.
The animals have lost the best friend they ever had, and so have
I suppose I turned more to spirituality to try to get some answers, because I couldn't get answers from anywhere else on why. That was a very simple question. I wanted to know why.
Not long after we lost Steve, I spoke to Bob and said if he ever wanted me to discuss the circumstances around Steve's passing, I would be more than happy to discuss that with him, because I thought, for me personally, if I lost my daughter or my wife or someone very, very close to me like that, for my own peace of mind, I would probably want to know the circumstances. And Bob thanked me, and he said that he wouldn't like to have that discussion.
I started at Australia Zoo just after Steve Irwin died. It probably would have been about 3 or 4 weeks afterwards. Bob was always there, and he was always in the background, and I'd often see him there watching Bindy's show. And then all of a sudden, Bob wasn't there anymore.
I was becoming a disrupting influence. Not that I meant to be. I didn't mean to be a disrupting influence. That wasn't what I was trying to achieve.
I guess until we heard it from the horse's mouth that, there was some sort of break in the family, and I guess that's when we all started to know that there was a different direction for the zoo. but there was a real sense of everyone wanted to stick by him. No one wanted to see him go.
After we lost Steve, there was definitely a big downturn in people coming into the zoo.
Come on, gentle boy.
I mean, I could do crocodile shows, but I'm not the crocodile hunter. Same with Terry, same with Wes or Bindi or anybody else. People wanted to see Steve. He was such an amazing live, persona.
Crocs rule! Thank you.
I left the zoo in 2008. I had been feeling for some months that I wasn't anywhere near as challenged mentally or physically, like working what it was like working alongside with Steve. It was just an empty space that was going to be there forevermore. I wanted to find my happy ever after, and the day after I resigned from the zoo, I met my husband.
I guess I'd been there for 16, almost 17 years. When I left, I entertained ideas about working in other fields, but that lasted about one day because I had phone calls from people wanting my help and my expertise in other wildlife projects.
After I left the zoo, I actually found myself working with the whales in Hervey Bay, and I contacted Bob. He came up, got involved in the whales. He sort of said, anything you do from here, please let me know. And over that time, I guess we developed a really good friendship. When they get into the big pool, they're not so used to being hand-fed.
No. Amanda's helping me get my act together, I guess. Probably feels like giving me a kick in the backside every now and again if I get a bit slack and don't work hard enough.
I think it's just tremendous, to be able to put it back where it belongs today.
It's strange to think that at 76 and now 29 that we could be friends.
She was in a bad state before.
But we've sort of helped each other with various causes and various campaigns. And we do now have up and running for Bob, the Bob Irwin Wildlife Foundation. So every single day of the week we have inquiries from another wildlife carer who's in trouble or in need of some support. And Bob quite happily will make massive journeys to go and give those people his support.
You can see it, big girl. Here we go. All right. Bet she takes up an orange.
The last 18 months for Bob have been tough. Bob lost a close friend to suicide. This young boy really looked up to Bob and I guess he was another sort of father figure to him.
To me, it was just such a terrible waste because he had his whole life in front of him and he was only a young lad, and it was hard at that time.
Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ida.
Not long after that, the cameraman who was with Steve when he passed away broke his silence.
I remember it really very clearly.
It would have been really tough for him to hear some of what was said.
We stood up and said, one last shot, you swim up from behind the animal.
And I was actually really worried about him.
And all of a sudden it propped on its front.
I personally felt very sad and to a degree angry about what Justin had to say.
And he just sort of calmly looked up at me and said...
I can't be critical of Justin for telling his story because I guess that was his story.
And that was the last thing he said.
Myself, having given Bob the opportunity for me to share those sort of final moments with him, and he declined that, was certainly sort of reinforced why myself and Kate have never talked more widely about what happened on the day.
For a lot of people trying to get on with their lives without Steve, it wasn't something that helped by any means.
It was not long after I was in far north Queensland with Bob. He was working with the Australian Marine Conservation Society, and we just so happened to run into a couple of his old croc team. And they were just reminiscing about croc trips and crocodiles and the good old days and where's everybody now, and it really made me realise that it had been so long since I'd seen Bob that enthusiastic or that excited.
It was a really amazing experience for me because I hadn't seen these people for many, many, many years. And these were people that I'd worked with and camped with.
And I started to think, well, all these years, Bob has probably thought that he might have been stepping on toes to reconnect with all of these people. And they might have thought the same thing. And I just put it to Bob and I said, would you like to get together with everybody again? And he said, yeah, more than anything. And I started to think, I've got nothing to lose if I find them on Facebook and ask them how about getting together with Bob again. And I just couldn't believe the excitement when I started to get responses from everybody.
It has been talked about, for quite a long time, to have a reunion and to get together. And I mean, it's just a long time coming, and I've been looking forward to catching up with him for a long period of time.
I was probably a little bit apprehensive about it. I hadn't seen these people for 8 years.
Yeah, that must be Bruno.
I sort of left their company on not what we'd call a joyous basis. I didn't know how they would react.
How's it going? Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Come on, little Sideways. Hello.
But as it turned out, it was quite a moving experience.
Gee, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, you too, yeah.
Oh, fancy seeing you guys here. Hey.
I think Bob will just be over the moon with seeing all these people and reliving and recalling all those special times we had together.
How are you? Hey, mate. How are you? Good to see you. Good. Yeah. Good to see you again.
When I went through the gates at Bob's place and I could look down at the veranda and I saw all the crew starting together, I had to stop and I had a little cry, had a moment. And I saw Bob come down the stairs and then all the boys were kind of like this little guard of honour,
Hello, young lady.
Hello, Bob.
Been a long time, hasn't it? Hey, been a long time. Yeah. Good to see you.
I know, good to see you. My gosh, you look great.
Oh, I got lots of wrinkles now.
I've got something to tell you.
Have you?
Started my own breeding program.
Oh, well.
Got twins.
You have indeed. Wow.
This is
Hello.
Orlando.
Hello.
Say hello to Bob.
How you going?
Who's this bloke?
Oh, I never thought your mum ever...
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Oh my gosh.
It'll be a long time since you met these fellas too.
Hey, Bretto. How's it going? Gosh, look at you guys.
Hey, mate. You all right? I don't know about this. How you going, mate?
Oh my goodness. How are you,
Tom? Yeah, good. How are you?
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Oh my gosh. Bretto.
Greeting one by one with Brett, with Brino, meeting Brino's little girl as well. Tom and Dan, my goodness, they've just flourished in their own selves as men.
Yeah, well, we called one big fella.
It's been a while. I think it's been a while. Everyone was so happy and so positive that, they haven't lost their touch. It was worth the drive just for the laugh alone with those guys. I forgot really how funny they all are. And
Not so much here, but out in the open paddocks at the front, we get mobs of wood swallows, the little wood swallows, little fellas, and they come in their hundreds. It's amazing to watch. I just shut the tractor down and...
You get different...
Yeah, sit up against the wheel and roll half a dozen smokes for the next 2 hours,
And enjoy
I can always slash grass, but I can't always watch the wood swallows.
Smell the flowers.
I'm more at home with animals than I am with people.
Stephen would love it. He'd be stoked to see all the guys again and just to sit around the fire and catch up with everybody. I was going to sort of walk it, but I shone the torch out there and there's crocs out in there.
It's an amazing feeling to get back with all these guys. I haven't seen Brett now for 7 or 8 years, but it seems like I spoke to him yesterday. So it's their friendships and mateships that don't die.
He's a bit of a mongrel to get out of there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Nearly everyone's still stuck in the animal business.
Goodness me.
He just had his finger on the button and just ran. Yeah, just ran after it.
It's a good group of guys there. We'll always back Bob up because he's the man who tied it all together. He's the one that's ongoing and he's still striving it and pushing forward that conservation work.
Just shows you the power they got, doesn't it?
I'm pretty sure that's the croc that was flowing across to the east coast, really? And he swam all the way home. Yeah.
Bob, I know in his heart he's absolutely stoked to have everybody here, and I think that's important to Bob to know that nobody's forgotten Steve, and as well for us to know that Bob knows whether he likes it or not, to know that we still hold Bob very close in our hearts too.
He's going to bite anything that comes within range.
Bob and Steve virtually taught me everything that I know about wildlife today and really inspired me to continue working in the field. So I guess now to show Bob and support Bob and continue doing, a lot of the work that we did with Bob and Steve all those years ago is important to, not just myself, but most of the other team that we worked with as well.
I think legacy is that Steve's put a spotlight on our world that hadn't been there before, and probably for that sense we should thank him.
How's that? Certainly not affecting his condition. You see how fat his neck was.
What is he? I thought it was a radar glider or a yellow belly.
That's what I thought it was. I thought I was seeing something. Did you know they were here, Bob?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You'd have some big owls around here then too.
We got powerful owls.
Whoa, look at the size of this one.
Steve is with me. I don't really think that Steve himself understood what kind of influence he had right around the world.
Come on, big boy.
He wasn't shy in showing what passion that he had for the animals.
Woohoo! Mission accomplished. You beauty.
What he stood for and what he was able to achieve means just as much now as when he was physically here with us. That's what I believe. It's nice to be able to know, well, I can leave this physical world now knowing that it's in good hands.
Yeah, normally the yellow bellies have got like spare ears.
Because there's so many people that have been inspired and still being inspired by Steve. It's absolutely amazing.
Conservation's going through my head the whole time. Yet I can't even sit out in the surf without being thinking about conservation. Like, it's just, I'm on fire for it, mate. It's what makes me tick. I just can't stop. While I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm actually thinking, right, how can I best get a good conservation message out of my mouth, out of my head right now?